coming to get you, Barbara.
Here's some money. Go see a Star War.
But I'm trying, Ringo. I'm trying real hard to be the shepherd.
Welcome back to Long Walk Talks. My name is David Hensley. I'm the owner and creative director of Long Walk Productions, and I am joined tonight by my two co-hosts, Stan Wilson-Lee.
Hello.
And Chris Wilson-Barnes.
Hey, why don't you do the intro tonight?
I think I will, thank you.
There it is.
Because it's my turn to do my 4 perfect 10 picks after Stan did his January through April and Chris did his in May through August. And tonight we're going to be kicking off my selection with the 1987 classic, depending on who you ask, Robocop.
Robocop.
Who is he?
What is he?
Where did he come from?
Fantastic. Thank you for that alley-oop. Let me start by asking, is this the first time either of you guys had seen this before?
Yes, it was for me.
Stan, what about you?
I've seen it several times, but it was the first time in a while.
Nice. So I'm going to kick it off officially with something we didn't really discuss with the other picks, and that's, in your opinion, I've made it well known on this podcast how much I love this movie before. Is it a 10? Stan, kick us off.
I mean, all of ours have been subjectively 10, so it's like whether you think it's, a rated 10 out of 10 movie, it's, it's going to be totally where you're coming in from and what your context of the movie is and what you feel the style is and stuff. So, but for me, it's definitely of that period and of that time and of that style and genre. Yeah, I think it's one of the better ones.
Answer the question, Senator.
Well, I mean, all of us on this show are well known for our objectivity when it comes to our answers.
I think Old Boy is a 10. So it's like, for you to think this is a 10, it's like this is probably structurally probably more sound than Old Boy is, Chris,
but it's still, Chris is nodding his head.
It still has
I
the
wasn't
same
going to
type
be
of,
rude and interrupt.
It still has the same type of questions abound by it. So
and ultraviolence.
So it's like, sure, it's a 10. Definitely, it's definitely up there.
Chris, for your first time viewing, what would you say?
I wouldn't say 10, but I'd say it's very high. I'd put it around an 8 at least.
Nice. I saw this movie very young, way too young, and it had a huge impact on my love of film.
I imagine it would.
Yeah, it definitely desensitized me to a lot of things, including extreme graphic violence. But naturally, it's one of those movies that when you watch as a kid, you're like, wow, robots blowing things up and action scenes, and you get older and you start seeing the layers to this movie, which is going to be our next topic. The sheer number of genres that are mashed up into one film that is ostensibly on the surface an action movie. Like most people think of this and they think 80s action movie.
Buddy cop movie.
Well, it starts off like that, whereas that was one thing that got me was what's her name? Lewis really attaches herself to Murphy, but they knew each other for half a day.
Right.
I mean, they bonded really well, but
yeah, exactly. Murphy gets killed on the same day that they get paired up. So in addition to being an action movie, it's also a very, very dark comedy, like the bleakest of bleak. And the kind of dark humor where you should kind of be ashamed for laughing at.
Well, that's good. I think we talked about it earlier. It's just like it's definitely more. There is comedic moments, and it's definitely more in the realm of satire, where it's not necessarily meant to be laughed at,
right?
But it is comedic in a way.
The way the film is presented and the way it's laid out, I'd almost separate dark comedy and satire into two completely different subgenres. I've told the both of you, and I've told a lot of other people, I think one of my favorite jokes of all time is in the bleakest of scenes in this movie. At the very beginning, when Kenny gets shot up at ED 209, there's a long silence, and then somebody in that boardroom goes, "Will somebody call a goddamn paramedic?"
Yeah, and I remember catching that, thankfully, because I had the subtitles on, and I know we mentioned that to each other. It's like I remember just immediately thinking, what are they gonna do?
Yeah.
My thing in that same scene is don't touch him. Don't touch him. Don't touch him.
Right. Like,
has somebody call a paramedic? Don't touch him.
that scene raises so many questions. Like, why did they load ED-209 with live ammo for this demonstration? Why did they keep the gun that Kenny was using in the demonstration in the boardroom also fully loaded? These are the most irresponsible Fortune 500 board members of all time.
What do you mean he didn't hear the gun drop?
Well, they're military industrialists, so you know, so even though they were business guys, they're still making stuff for the military. So yeah, they're gonna have loaded weapons
they
in
may
their
be
boardroom.
making things for the military. I would not trust a single one of
Not
those
me
people
either.
with a weapon of any
No,
kind.
Neither
of
for
course
me.
not.
No way.
Especially not with an enforcement droid. But just by nature of the plot of the film, it's also very much a sci-fi film.
Oh yeah.
It's got very heavy horror elements in a lot of it.
Oh yeah, if not like straight up horror, then like body horror.
Definitely.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Very not David. David Lynchian.
Cronenberg.
And David Cronenbergian levels of body horror.
And psychological, when you consider like the absolute pain that Murphy is going
Yes.
through and and becoming RoboCop.
Yes.
Murphy is played by Peter Weller, by the way.
Yes, the inimitable
great.
Peter Weller, who's just so fucking good in that role, both as Alex Murphy and then as RoboCop. If you ever get bored, read like his process of preparing for that role and what he put himself through to play RoboCop in that massive suit that he could barely move in.
Right.
That on the second day of filming, they had to build mechanical fans into the suit because I think he lost like 10 pounds on the first day of filming.
Oh
just
my
from sweating.
God! Yeah.
It's fascinating stuff. But I can't think of, well, aside from like other Paul Verhoeven films like Starship Troopers, I can't think of another film that has just so many genres in one 100-minute running time.
It's interesting, and also on top of that, like you talk about the satire of world events and specifically America, and it's very interesting that they let an outsider do America do that for a film that was getting released in America.
Well, I think because is he German, Swedish? What's
Norwegian.
Norwegian? Because I think only a Norwegian,
Danish. I'm sorry.
Danish. A European filmmaker could take those kind of satirical pot shots at America and at American media and get away with it. Because much like nobody understood when Starship Troopers came out that whole movie is a satire, I don't think a lot of American audiences understood that, like, those media breaks. That is 100% satire.
Oh yeah, those are one of the most fascinating parts of the movie to me, especially because it's like it's an interesting look. It's like this is what we kind of look like to the rest of the world. It's like it's that kind of joke that can only be made from an outsider's perspective, and it's very interesting to watch.
This is also the movie that made me realize that news reports are the perfect exposition.
Oh, absolutely.
Like, you can put a news report in a movie and have the newscaster deliver all the exposition you want, and it's going to seem perfectly natural if you've ever watched the news before.
Thanks to stuff like Riff Tracks and like Red Letter Media's Best of the Worst, I've seen like movies that like followed RoboCop, and even if they're not exactly the same kind of movie, I think it helps show that too, because so many of them will have a scene where someone can do that, where someone can drop all that exposition they need into a news broadcast.
Yep. I think, the movie uses those media breaks brilliantly, because it's not just the newscast, it's also the commercials for fake products. Like the hearts, the artificial hearts.
Oh God, yes, that's an especially good bit of satire from someone who likely comes from a country where they have socialized medicine,
Right,
Where it's like so they have a commercial where it's like They talk about the newest brand of heart models for people, for cardiac patients who need them, and just like they just very subtly, like in a real commercial, just slip in that word financing. It's just like,
Financing options are available. Let's not forget about the 6000 SUX.
yeah,
The new sports car that gets 8.2 miles to the gallon.
Big is back. I really like that commercial because I saw the start of it. It's like, wow, the effects team made like a classic
Stop motion
monster movie just for that commercial.
Yes. That commercial starts. It cuts. I can't remember exactly what the scene is, but the movie cuts from something very dramatic straight into that commercial, which starts with a claymation T-Rex tromping through the city before they reveal that it's a car commercial. It doesn't get more absurd than that.
Yeah, and just how hard on the head the heart commercial is like, I looked at that and was like, oh God, there's really not that much. There's no difference.
No.
There's no difference.
No. Good satire should be almost indistinguishable from the real thing.
If anything, that looks like a better option than what we're dealing with today.
Oh, for sure. Well, in addition to everything that I just said, it's an action movie, it's a satire, it's a dark comedy, horror, psychological horror. It's also, at least according to Verhoeven, the director himself, and a lot of people who have analyzed this film to hell and back, it's also very heavily a biblical allegory.
I can see that.
So that's my next question. Was Verhoeven leaning into it too hard? Did it make sense? Was it too much? What do you guys think?
No, because honestly, without you bringing that up, one, I can see it now that I saw it once you mentioned it, but I didn't feel like it was overt at all.
Stan?
I agree with Chris. It was, if there's anything, it's so downplayed. The idea that, the good guys are the good guys, bad guys are the bad guys, that's clear. But the idea that you're being drummed into a religious awakening, that's definitely not there. It's like the allegories. It's definitely more a story. If it's a biblical story as opposed to a biblical revelation, as opposed to if anything. So, it's way not too much in my opinion.
You hear that, Zack Snyder? There's a subtle way to do it.
Oh man, I don't.
You're talking
mind
to two.
Zacks.
Yeah, you're talking to two Zack Snyder fans.
Oh, I know.
But
I don't mind Zack.
I'm painfully aware of how unsubtle Zack Snyder is, and yet I'm still a fan. But yeah, I think the name of the game here is subtlety, because before I read it online and I had it pointed out to me, no, I would have never picked up on any of the symbolism in the movie.
And again, being a Danish filmmaker, all their stuff is allegorical. So it's like
being a Swedish, Norwegian, German, Danish film director,
Scandinavian,
Bergman, everything. It's like the idea that everything's an allegory, but you're never hit over the head with it. It's because that's what they've been taught. Their whole life.
Well, to the point where you don't even really hear much of a mention of religion at all in the movie, period.
Exactly.
No, not at all. But it's mentioned in that first first media break. Bodeker's 32nd victim is in the hospital, which would have made Murphy
33.
his 33rd victim. The Bodeker shooting Murphy in the hand is supposed to be allegorical to the nail through the palm.
Okay. Yeah, I can see that.
To the point where Robocop, when he is confronting Bodeker at the end, when they're in that pit, Robocop is framed to look like he's walking on water.
Oh, yeah. No, see,
Because
again, as soon as you say it, I was like, I see. Okay, yeah.
Bodeker is ankle deep in that water, but when it cuts to Robo, he is walking across the top of the water.
That's a lot to look for.
Right.
If you're looking for it, yes. And so people looking for it, yes, it's going to be a blatant, allegory, blatant reference. But you're not going to, if you're just watching it and taking in the moment, you're really not going to, oh, wait, that was, because, no, he got his hand shot off. It wasn't a nail into a cross.
Right.
It was just his hand being blown off. Or, because you're not really looking for him to walk on the water, because he's a giant robot. So it's like,
well, if you want to
his
get
boots are tall.
if you want to get more on the nose than the getting his hand shot off, he literally gets his side pierced by Boddicker
Yes.
with a spear at the
Yes.
end.
Yes, but still, I mean, again, it's stuff that you have to be looking
Right.
hard for that. Unless you're a total scholar, you're not going to get it just by watching it.
The broiest of film bros.
Right.
Exactly.
Yeah. All right, let's swerve away from that for a second. This is probably going to be a very brief discussion, and it's going to be one of those, hey, isn't this great kind of discussions? But let's talk about the fucking score.
It fits the film very well.
Basil Polidoris' score is phenomenal, and it's a crime that this is the only movie that it got used for. It's not used in the reboot or any of the sequels or the TV shows. God, I love the use of his main theme song and how it's very much like the Indiana Jones theme song in that whenever you hear those chords start playing, you know something awesome's about to happen. It's used a couple of times throughout the movie. First, when when Robocop goes out on his first night of patrol.
Yeah.
When he raids the Coke factory. And then again during
That's a fun scene.
I fucking love.
First of all, just because it's to the point where you can be so brazen in old Detroit about your drug making that you just have a giant Coke factory.
Yeah, I love it. Yeah. I mean, Stan, you lived in Detroit. Did you drive by any Coke factories?
Well, I lived an hour north of Detroit. Thank you, but because I'm from Flint, remember? But Detroit was famous for taking buildings and making and refurbishing them as something else than they originally were. It's like, I mean, I used to dance at the City Club, which used to be basically a super huge speakeasy, and they, basically destroyed the top end of it, but in the basement it was this great goth club. So it's like,
I was about to say, is it anything like the EDM club that
yes,
Robocop goes to?
Yes, and if you've seen The Crow, a lot of Top Dollars Club's stuff that's very similar to what the City Club was, and goth bands would play there, and the ceiling, remember, is not that high. So the idea that these places were used for things that they're not supposed to be used for, yes, that's very popular in Michigan, and a lot of stuff is refurbished, but the whole car, the biggest back and stuff, that was very Detroit, Michigan, Flint type thing.
You told that whole story about the club you went to like you were under an NDA and trying to be as non-specific as possible. That's what that whole thing sounded like to me. I'm not saying that it was underneath a Coke factory, but
it wasn't a Coke factory,
I know.
but there may have been Coke done in it.
It was the 80s. You would be hard-pressed to find some place where Coke wasn't being snorted.
It was in the 80s and early 90s, yes.
You couldn't swing a dead cat.
I told you on the way over, I was like, this is an 80s movie about the excesses of capitalism and everything.
Absolutely.
And I was like, where is the Coke? And then it got to Bob Morton's death.
Bob Morton snorting Coke from between a woman's breasts.
Yes.
Oh,
the way it's supposed to be done. No, I mean...
I want to give a shout out to that one actress who's in the scene or in the movie for one scene who gets to deliver that little speech about how she's an intellectual and has one of my favorite lines in all of cinema. Sometimes I can just think of something and it gets me so horny.
That's very Michigan too.
Is it? You dated a lot of Michigan girls like that, huh?
Yeah.
We started this by talking about the score, and now we're talking
Michigan
about Coke
women.
factories and Michigan women. Please don't sue me.
I'm gonna get in trouble, man.
You
I'm gonna
are.
get some notes.
And by extension, this whole podcast sued
No,
by
I'm
the
gonna
state
get
of
some
Michigan.
notes, man, because you guys aren't from there, so I got friends.
Anyway,
well, they
No
kind
longer
of
my friends.
embraced. Didn't they have a statue of RoboCop for the longest
They
time?
literally did, yes. Yeah, I think it got taken down a few years ago.
Yeah.
But yeah, Detroit really loves them some RoboCop. The score, it's great. All right.
The score is very, very good.
All right, so we've already sort of touched on this, so we probably won't take too long on it, but much like the biblical allegories, the satire of the film.
Yes.
Too far, not far enough, or right on the money?
Well, honestly, at this point, the satire accurately kind of predicted where we are now. It's like it I think it was at the time over the top probably, but now it's like, oh, they were kind of hopeful about the future, honestly, because it's like mainly the satire is about corporate greed and capitalism in general, because you get that vibe because even the best of people in Amazon, I mean OCP, were really not good people, very not good people.
Records from them, man.
I need somebody to deep fake Jeff Bezos' face onto the old man's face from OCP.
I mean, when we were comparing the characters, it's like it was weird. It's like I told you, Bob Morton is better than Dick Jones, who is clearly evil. Bob Morton isn't much better, but it was like I was telling you, he's very much if you were to give him an alignment, he's lawful evil, or what I called corporate neutral.
True that.
But because it's like he manages to make Robocop, and he's so interested in impressing the old man, who they don't ever name as the guy who's the head of the company. He's so interested in impressing him that he builds a good cop and programs him with the directives to actually
do his job
to the best of his ability. It's like you only find out later Dick Jones snuck in the secret,
Dick Jones.
The secret cover my ass directive.
Richard.
And then they talk about how good the old man is and how a good man he is, and it's like, but in the scene where the guy gets killed by Ed 209, he turns to Dick Jones, chastises him like his son, and goes, he's like you got to fix this because it's going to set back my whole plan to build a new city.
I think he says it could set them back. The taxes alone would be worth $50 million.
Yeah, it's just
he had a little bit of heart though.
Oh, no, he did.
Mean, it's like I think Dick Jones was more Bezos than the old man was.
The whole point of the old man was like even the best of the corporate people
are going to get corrupted.
Well, yeah, he's still kind of corrupt. He's still at best he's indifferent to the suffering of others.
Yeah.
But he does realize that some robots are worse than others.
That was the lesson, yes.
Hashtag not all robots. Well, I don't think the people who conceptualized the 6000 SUX and its 8.2 miles per gallon could have ever predicted that the Hummer would ever become a commercial vehicle.
Exactly.
Which famously boasted, I think, only slightly better, like 9 miles per gallon.
Well, yeah, it was like they made it worse on the subsequent models of it somehow. Like the H2 and H3 were like worse than the original.
Which is interesting because the Equinox, the E-Equinox is going to be end of 2023 at $30,000 for the base E-Equinox.
The Equinox.
The E-Equinox. But the point of the story is that they're also introducing, there's GM is keeping the Hummer in line. There's going to be an E-based Hummer.
An electric Hummer.
Which will get 12 miles.
That's going to be the name of my autobiography. I also don't think that it was Ed Neumeyer who wrote the script, and I also don't think when he wrote the line, I'd buy that for $1, could have ever predicted Bazinga.
Oh God, yeah.
Or any other of the
that show, which I found out because I watched a deleted scene where they actually show you the actual like show graphic name. It's called "It's Not My Problem." It was such a good, it was such a good representation of like crap TV or entertainment that gets made to distract people, because everyone in the show who was about to have a problem or like when Emil's on the street just watching it. But like when the guy at the convenience store gets robbed earlier, he's watching the show and he's enjoying it. It's just like it pops up as just like it's just sad escapism, because the guy on the show is like this kind of like I don't want to talk.
He's
bad
a
about
dweeb.
He's a dweeb. He's kind of a schlub.
He's short and balding, and he has glasses on.
Yeah, but things constantly go his way in the show. He constantly lucks out.
He's surrounded by scantily clad, busty women.
Yeah, things are going his way. It's just like it's this escapism that they just shovel feed the people to be like, this is what we think you are, and like here's a version of you winning. So enjoy that.
I'm just now realizing, hearing you talk about it, that Bixby is the harbinger of doom. Because you're absolutely right. Every time somebody watches that show in the movie, something horrible happens shortly afterwards.
And then, the one time it's not someone having something happen to them, it's Emil watching it, and then the riot kicks in.
Mm-hmm. Stan, your thoughts re-satire?
It's definitely right on. And at that time, Verhoeven got a lot of stuff aimed at him for being so fatalistic and so that his satire was just too much, and that he got lambasted. But now he's like, told you.
Yeah.
And that's why he's got a third act as a director now, and he's coming back to do more stuff and everything, even after Showgirls and everything, is like, because everything he put out there happened, so.
Yeah, this movie had the same problem. Actually, no, let me rephrase that, because I would be curious to know when this movie came out if it had the same pratfalls that Starship Troopers had, which came out just 10 years later in 1997. Because people looked at Starship Troopers as just an over-the-top action movie made in the wrong decade, when it was even more of a straight-up satire of American nationalism and military jingoism than Robocop was of consumerism.
Right.
I would love to, have just been a fly on the wall in 1987 when this came out and see if it had the same issues.
There was a lot. Definitely not as much as Showgirls, and probably not as much as Starship Trooper got. But
it's the risk you always run with satire.
Yep.
That some people are just going to take it at face value and be like, yeah, hell yeah.
especially when, like you said, Chris, earlier, and I was saying that it's so on the nose and so correct and so right on that, it takes 30, 40 years before, he was right.
Yeah.
Because it's so outrageous, but at the same time, it's outrageous in a way that's like based on the current trends of the time. It just, the excess that they put it to is just like, if things don't get better, this is about where they'll be.
I mean, you take a topic, any topic, and you take it to its logical extreme. Mm-hmm. Like, all right, American consumerism, gas consumption is insane. Let's take that to its logical conclusion. Here's a top dollar high-end vehicle that only gets 8 miles per gallon. You take that to its logical conclusion, and eventually you're probably going to be proven right. Yeah. Let's swerve in a completely different direction again now. For a man who is mainly remembered for playing Red Foreman on That 70s Show.
Brilliant character, though.
How fucking good is Kurtwood Smith as the villain, quite possibly one of the most despicable villains of all time in this movie?
Fantastic.
So good. Also, it's important to note those roles are only about 10 years apart.
Yeah, less than, because again, this is 87. And when did
97?
Okay, so that 70 show started in 97?
Yeah, it did. Wait, it was either 97 or 99. I think it was 97. It was 97.
Okay. Yeah, insane. Like, Boddicker is such a vile human being, but Kurtwood Smith has such a fucking charisma.
Yeah, that's where a lot of my guilty laughs came from, because I put in the chat after you put up the topics and I was watching it. I was like, he's got a real Sam Rockwell kind of energy.
Yes.
There's a little bit of a man, like he'll switch on a dime. Like when it's more serious, for time for him to be serious, he's serious. But especially when he's going in to see Dick Jones, he's got this little manic vibe when he's hitting on the secretary and all those.
Richard.
He's so gleeful about some of the things he gets to do.
Fun trivial fact: the secretary in that scene is Smith's actual wife.
Oh wow.
Yeah. you talking about that manic energy. I love when again Coke warehouse scene.
Yeah.
Boddicker has his men threaten this drug dealer, and his men threaten to blow his head off.
Yeah.
And then he starts drumming on the desk and going, "Bobby, the Tigers are playing in Detroit tonight."
I really want to see.
He's like, we got to get this done. I want to go see.
I never miss a game.
Never miss a game.
Yeah, just the fucking energy that he brings to that role is insane.
Do love the fact that he's a Tigers fan.
Of course you do.
Gotta admit that. And it's baseball, and he didn't say the Lions are playing.
It
That was
doesn't
football.
100% track,
Baseball.
but when in the more sadistic, manic moments, I got a Joker vibe from him.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah. With the exception of he didn't have Joker's laugh, but the other guy did.
Oh my
have Joker's
God.
laugh.
He was like the one character that I was
Really?
turned off by because he was just. I know he was meant to be. But he was just very annoying.
Oh yeah. Of all of his villainous henchmen, that guy was the most over the top. I wish I could remember his name. There was Emil. What were the name
I
of
think
his
Ray
henchmen?
Wise's was Leon or something.
Yes,
Ray Wise was
because
like,
I got
that's
to
great.
meet Ray Wise
did,
at Bad
yeah.
Monster a few years ago.
Oh, fun fact! While you're looking that up, there's a Verhoeven cameo in the movie
At the club.
Yeah, they show it off in the special features. Yeah, because that wasn't really meant to be on camera. He was there. He was off to the side hyping up the dancers when they were going. He was like trying to show them the kind of energy they were supposed to have. And when they were done shooting, it swung around to him. But then that footage he was on camera briefly, and then it showed up in editing it's a cut to him going wild when Robocop is dragging Leon out by his hair.
Because he's literally looking at the camera.
Yeah.
Okay, looking at the headshots of these actors who played his gang as adults is hilarious because the guy that we're talking about with the obnoxious laugh, the character's name is Joe Cox.
That's right, yeah.
The actor's name is Jesse D. Goins. Guessing it's Goins. I know this is an audio medium, and so no one's going to see this unless they look it up. But I want you two to just look at this man's headshot now.
Oh yeah, no, people need to look that up. He looks like a retired councilman.
Yeah, he does
Or
not.
principal.
Yeah, exactly.
High school principal.
Oh man. Yeah.
But I want to say he was one of the he was one of the Warriors, I believe, or if not the Warriors, he was one of the oh my gosh, the main gang, that Cyrus was leader of.
The only other gang from there that I can remember are the Baseball Furies.
The greatest.
Well, there's the Orphans.
The Orphans.
We can play this game all night. Isn't it?
Yeah, no, let's not. But yeah, I just wanted to take a minute to talk about Kurtwood Smith and what a weird career projection
He's
that
always been
was.
a great actor, and I think is like he didn't get enough chances to show off that kind of energy because most of his other roles he's more subdued.
He just sits there and glowers.
Yeah, as Red or just in other roles. Because I mean, when that '70s show was running, he also did a guest shot on Star Trek Voyager, and I saw that, and it was just like he was just really regretful, penitent character. It's just like good acting. It was just like this was such a different breath of air from him.
Yeah, he is also responsible for 2 line readings that have stuck with me for my entire adult life. Number 1 being the iconic "Bitches Leave"
Yeah.
when he.
That's good because it's like again it's one of the moments where he contrasts his manic energy because it's just very blunt. It's not harsh but blunt. It's like bitches leave.
Bitches leave. And they're not insulted by it either.
No.
That's the best part. Is
Of
that
course not. They're high on cocaine. They're not
But,
going to be
you know,
insulted
it's
by
like
anything.
They are prostitutes high on cocaine.
they know what they are in this.
Oh, that's us. We're the bitches. We gotta go.
Exactly.
And the other one, the other one of Boddicker's lines is after RoboCop finally arrests him, takes him in. He tells the police to book him.
Yep.
Boddicker is standing there covered in cuts from all this glass.
Because while
bleeding
arresting
profusely.
him, RoboCop threw him through 4 different panes of glass.
Yes, and he had each one coming.
Yes. Oh, 100%.
But the officers are all standing there looking at Boddicker, he spits this enormous wad of blood on the paperwork, what I think is supposed to be his paperwork.
Yeah.
And he looks at Sergeant Reed and he goes, "Just give me my fucking phone call." The delivery of that line has stuck with me for the better part of like 30 years. Just he's so good. And that character is so classic.
And this has always been my thing with RoboCop, is that there's so many levels of performances and level of acting, I don't know, experience. You know, you got Nancy Allen, who is probably the lowest on the rung in performance quality and stuff, but she's great. But the thing is, Kurtwood Smith is like the one that, and maybe the guy who plays Dick Jones, they're like the classically trained actors, so the specificity of their performances is just so different than the rest of but it doesn't seem like it's out of place ever because of the style of the film, and I love that about it. It's like Kurtwood Smith is like, yeah, we got you. We were able to afford you, so yeah, do your shit.
Every character in this movie might as well have
Ronny
been
Cox.
in their own completely different movie.
And it makes sense because, I mean, like, of how they separate out the different layers of people in Detroit. It's like you've got the corporate people removed from it all. You've got
Absolutely.
Boddicker and his gang leading the wave of crime.
Yeah.
And then you've got the
Hedonism.
cops just trying to deal with it.
Yeah. And then we go and we got, Buckaroo Banzai as RoboCop.
I was about to say.
So it's like,
Let's not forget Peter Weller.
Peter Weller is like just a great actor all around, and
who I'm pretty sure we've been accidentally stealth insulting this time by not referring to him as Dr. Peter
He's
Weller.
an art professor.
that's right. Yes.
He's an art professor.
Yes.
And he voiced Batman in one of the animated.
Yeah,
one of
The Dark
animated-
Knight Returns.
Yes, that one.
The adaptation. Okay, so I want to move into, now that we've gotten like the serious discussion topics out of the way, there were two things that I thought of that I just had to throw in here as discussion topics. Mainly to do with the whole, we talked a lot about the heart replacement commercial that's in the movie. And a lot of time is given in the movie to Robo's prosthetic parts. Money is no object, hypothetically, and we have the technology to replace any body part you want. What are you replacing?
Am I limited to one?
Let's keep it in one group.
Arms and legs.
So just the limbs.
Yeah, if you said to keep it to one group, if I had more options, I'd also say sinuses.
Oh, I mean, if I had the option, I'd just have mine removed entirely. I don't know what function the
You
sinuses...
still need them.
Do I, though?
Yes.
What function do they serve other than to annoy me?
If they functioned properly, you wouldn't know.
That's a good point. You know what? Sure. I was going to say cut off my legs just above the knee and replace that with robot legs. But if we can get robot sinuses...
You said robot.
I did not.
You said robot.
If
legs.
we can get robot sinuses... Hell yeah, I'm making that happen. I'll stick with my legs a little longer.
But I said arms and legs because of multiple reasons. Like my knees are terrible.
Oh yeah, I've got the knees of a 60-year-old man.
And it's like my arm is like I have had, and in conjunction and at different points I have had tendonitis, tennis elbow, and I'm currently, my rotator cuff is kind of fucked.
And you don't play tennis?
I do not. No, I did in high school, but that doesn't. But that's just a weird cutesy name for a repetitive stress injury.
I play golf.
Yes, you do. The more I think about it, actually, let's just go full robo. Just take my face and graft it onto a robot's head.
You know what? Yeah, fine. Honestly, because if I can, data spike and get all the information.
Yeah, exactly. Stan, what body part or parts are you replacing? Don't say your robo dick.
He needs a new one.
Did I take that from you?
No, because I don't.
Robodick you took
I'm
it from?
kind of insulted that you thought I was going to go that way.
His theme song could be detachable penis.
No, because we were taught, which is a great song actually. We were talking about this earlier about my back and stuff. So if I'd replace if adamantium was available, give me a spine. And then we were talking about I'm kind of in agreement with you, Chris, about especially my arms.
Yeah.
And the phantom, anything that has to do with the nerves, because I get all these phantom, oh shit, my nerves are fucking me up.
I don't even want like super strength or anything. I just want this to stop.
Working shit. I just want my shit to work.
Just all of this gestures wildly.
So my back, definitely, especially my lower back, if I could lift people up in my arms and maybe carry them across the threshold or something.
Across the threshold
without my back going pop, 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 pop.
All right, so you're getting a robotic spine. Chris is getting
I'll just say arms and
legs,
yeah.
And I'm replacing everything and cutting my face off and putting it on the robot's head.
Sure. You also that means you get a cool robot voice too.
Yeah, I mean, if I could keep my voice, that'd be great. Also, like if in this hypothetical situation, if I could get something that's a little less, boxy and awkward. Like, give me a size medium RoboCop.
Now, you get like a Minority Report or a Deus Ex Machina body. So
hopefully they'll also just go ahead and take care of like your digestive system too, so that you don't have to eat baby food for the rest of your life.
Yeah, and there's that. Although I feel like I would, after some point, start missing food. You know what? I'm back on board with you. Replace my arms and legs.
That's like the primary
and my
thing. Yeah.
Spine. And probably also my lungs. I've put those through a lot of abuse. While we're at it, my liver.
Since I got COVID now, probably my lungs too. So
kidneys, just in case.
Yeah, kidneys probably should go.
You may as well just start making.
Why don't we just make me a new me? Yeah, completely, utterly. I'm sure you guys would like that.
Throw out the old stand, new robot stand.
New robot stand is probably better than the old stand. But true.
And
but would he be as funny?
Well, yeah, but you shouldn't say it.
Would he be as fun and interesting?
Well, we'd have
probably not. He'd be a robot.
We'd have to program the fun into you. Like, here are your prime directives based off Stan's personality.
You'd have a 4. It's like Stan can't kill us or something.
Well, no.
Stan can't talk about killing us.
Stan can't mispronounce words like he loves to do.
Like robot?
Directive 4, Stan can't say robot as robot. Directive 5, he can't say Leonardo DiCaprio as Leonardo DiCaprio.
I don't do that, though.
Yes.
Do I?
You do. And then I'm pretty sure that it was Patton Oswalt, right, who made famous the whole, remember when RoboCop shot that dude in the dick?
I don't know who. I'll gladly attribute it to him. I just remember seeing it pop up on when it became a big, it kind of spread through the internet. To cap off with the one fan at a convention taking a picture with Peter Weller in a shirt that says that.
Yes.
But the awesomeness of the aiming technology that was available. Imagine if we had that for like our combative drones instead of that could actually target something that was actually worth targeting.
Instead of just dropping bombs
on schools or something.
One of the more interesting parts is that's one of the moments where they let you know that that Murphy's still in there.
Mm-hmm.
Yes,
because there's the way he reholsters his gun. They drop all these hints that are just unless you're not paying attention at all. It's like it's like there's still some of Murphy in there.
Dead or alive, you're coming with me.
Yep.
Yeah.
And it all goes back. It's like we haven't mentioned her enough. Nancy Allen as Lewis. It's like one of my first crushes in that period of time. Along with Dee Wallace, as we all know. But
I thought there was just going to be a pause there while you were thinking about Nancy Allen and Dee Wallace.
I feel like I was resisting, but yes.
You distracted yourself. That was impressive.
She does great. I feel like part of the satire is a little bit in Lewis's and Murphy's relationship, because they knew each other and they got along well for like half a day, and then Murphy fucking bites it.
And that's what I'm saying is that, and that's why I had brought up earlier that she's like the least actor worthy of this troop of folk, and it's like, but the thing is she really does have one of the harder characters to play, in the sense of where she is in the movie. You know, it's like she has to still be that person that recognizes Murphy as, you know, recognizes RoboCop as Murphy and everything. And the thing, it never seems weird. She feels weird about recognizing those things, but like you said, with the gun twirl and everything, and that she picks up on that like really fast and really quick, and that they don't dangle that in front of her. It's like, oh, is she gonna figure that out? And so the smartness of the script, the smartness of the directions that she got, and just her as an actor and performer, just keeping up with that, with those moments, and not letting those moments be suffused, you know. And it's like, you're with her so much of that. And then so when we get to the climax and she's down and she's possibly dying, and she gets to say, or she gets to proceed my favorite line in the movie, when she says, I'm hit bad, Murphy, or I'm
a mess.
I'm a mess. And
you just said a completely different line.
I know, I'm a mess. And RoboCop goes, they'll fix you. They always fix you.
They'll fix anything. They'll fix everything.
They'll fix everything. So,
yeah.
But yes, I love her in this movie, even though she might be in a different movie.
Again, like I said earlier, she is in NYPD Blue. Bob Morton is in Wall Street.
Yes.
Dick Jones
and they all work.
is on a futuristic version of Shark Tank.
Yes, and they all work together. You know, so mesh.
Chris, you put something in the chat, in our group chat. You said you felt the movie ended very abruptly.
Well, yeah. No, here's the thing. Everything gets resolved. It's not like there's that, but it's just like, if you think about the sequence of the final few minutes, it's literally Dick Jones takes the old man hostage, saying you know RoboCop can't stop him. He gets fired. He's free to be shot. The old man moves aside. RoboCop shoots him out the window. He falls out. He dies. RoboCop just turns to leave. And he goes, and I believe the old man goes, "Nice shooting, son. What's your name?" And he goes, "Murphy." Cut to credits. Immediate. Well, I didn't mean that in a bad way. I meant that it reminded me very much of kind of like an abrupt, kind of like how things like westerns would end. There's no denouement. There's no.
Well, I think
there's no even like a short epilogue.
Narratively, I think that is the denouement, because the climax of
is
the film,
the fight with Boddicker. Yeah.
Right, him killing Boddicker, that whole confrontation, and then
no, I get that. I get all that. I'm just saying, in terms of pacing, it was just a sudden like hitting a wall. Not, and I don't mean in a bad way.
Right.
It's just like, we're done here. Out.
The funny thing to me about that last sequence is that at one point, Jones is chewing out Boddicker about how RoboCop's he records everything,
yes,
and his memory is admissible as evidence.
Yep.
What does RoboCop do but plug into their bank of TVs
and play the video? Yep.
Yeah, I had to kill Bob Morton because he made a mistake. Like, yeah, real hypocritical of you, Dick.
Richard.
Yeah, the repeated way that people really enunciate Dick when they're talking to him, just for Boddicker when he sits down at the end, they'd be like, "I guess we're going to be friends after all." Richard. Makes that whole thing just beautiful. Yeah, never really thought about the abruptness of it, but I think you are right. It is.
It brought to mind, like I said, just because of not only it's the dialogue, and then that cut makes me think it's like, oh, it's like how a Western would end.
Mm-hmm. Well, I think also a lot of movies would want to take a few more minutes to be like, oh, how is Murphy dealing with this? Is Lewis okay? What's the fallout from this going to be? And this movie is like, no, fuck you.
Who fucking cares? Actually, there is a cut scene that would have taken place after that shows Lewis in the hospital as part of the news program.
Oh, really?
Yeah, there was one final news bumper, I think, that was meant to play after that, whereas like they talk about Boddicker, and then Lewis is in the hospital, and they were like, well, they basically asked her, do you still want to be a cop? And she's like, yes, hell yeah.
And at that time, and maybe this RoboCop may have been one of the last of that time of movies where there was like Black Rain, the Clint Eastwood, Dirty Harry movies. The ending would happen and credits would come up.
Well, yeah,
they might be walking off.
Well, yeah,
down the street.
It mimics that idea of like, well, the big American hero took care of the problem.
Yeah.
We're done here. There's nothing else to worry about.
Yeah.
And but I think shortly, because even Starship Troopers kind of has a,
Well, Starship Troopers
lasting.
ends on one of the movie begins and ends with one of those media break segments of, look, here's your heroic troopers led by Lieutenant Rico as they go back off into war. I need to rewatch Starship Troopers. That is a very underrated movie.
It's one of my favorites. It is one of my favorites, and it's kind of one of the movies that brought me back to this genre, this style of B movie making or whatever.
Big budget B movies.
Big budget B movies, and that along with Basic Instinct, another Peter Verhoeven film, and it's like, he was
Paul Verhoeven.
Paul Verhoeven, not Peter Weller Verhoeven.
Who's Peter Verhoeven?
Paul Verhoeven.
He mentally fused Weller and Verhoeven into one being.
Peter Weller
Peter Paul
Verhoeven.
Wellerhoeven.
But he's a master of that and of that style of movie making.
Mm-hmm.
I'm even Showgirls, notwithstanding, even possibly part of that group, but in the sense of that, like Chris was saying, the heroic. We did what was supposed to set out to do, and it's done. We don't need any extra. But I think RoboCop would be one of the last to do that, because everything after that started doing the extended denouements. Yeah.
Listeners, I'm sorry you've had to hear me clear my throat so many times. Much like talking about my robot sinuses, if I could have them.
I know, right?
Mine are killing me right now. Just real quick to wrap up. I know, Chris, you said that you hadn't seen RoboCop 2. Stan, have you seen RoboCop 2?
I've seen RoboCop 2 and 3.
Oh, I'm so sorry. I've also seen 3.
RoboCop 2 is, it's adequate. It's not up there with...
No, it's nowhere near as good as this one. I like it for the nostalgia factor, and it's a huge guilty pleasure of mine. RoboCop 3, however, is just straight up garbage.
It is.
Don't bother.
Bad.
And I said I would never watch the Old Boy remake, but then after we did the episode about it, I went and watched the American Old Boy. Actually ended up it was pretty good, to be honest. I don't think the same could ever be said of the RoboCop remake with Joel Kinnaman. But who knows? Maybe one of these days when I'm bored, I might watch it.
I don't know.
It's on for free.
It's funny. I looked at that without ever having really seen the first RoboCop, and I was like, I feel like they've missed the point.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
It seems like the focus is way more on the person, and not is like the entire RoboCop movie is just about just in general, not about RoboCop.
Right.
He's the hero. He is a hero. He does a great job. He saves the day. That's almost like guaranteed. It's just everything happening around him that is the real movie.
Yeah. All right, well, listeners, that's going to wrap up our RoboCop discussion. Go ahead, Chris.
I did have a couple more things. One, I thought you were going to mention this because I dropped this in the chat too. RoboCop predicted DVDs.
Yes, it did.
When Boddicker comes in to kill Bob Morton, it wouldn't have been a difficult idea to think of, as like with the way CDs were coming into common play. Is like, but they thought it was like, oh, here's a kind of like a CD that would be able to play video.
From what I've read, God, my voice is really starting to go. I'm sorry, guys. From what I've read, they were supposed to have like a mini cassette tape, I think, and then on the day of, somebody was like, "Here, use this instead," and gave them a CD.
Again, yeah, it's just like. Just that idea just like predicts DVDs, because Boddicker pops in a video of Dick Jones telling Bob Morton, "I'm about to kill you," which I love that because it looks like I'm assuming OCP owned a studio of some kind that he went down to, sat down, and had someone film him giving this little monologue, because there were zooms and there were cuts.
And then that same person had to then burn that onto a DVD.
Yes.
Hand it off for him to give it to Boddicker.
Yeah.
I wonder if that guy still had his job after that.
Oh, probably.
Were there more? Sorry.
I lost it. There was something I was going to bring up, and I can't remember it now, unfortunately.
Well, that just means next month. You know what? We'll just do Robocop for my next 3 perfect 10 picks. You know what? Now that we're talking about it, that is a good point. What are we talking about next month? Oh, it's October. We're talking about Ghostbusters.
That's right.
My next perfect 10 pick is Ghostbusters. So that will be coming out in a couple of weeks. Last week, we did our wrestling pay-per-view marathon of 3 episodes. I don't ever want to
do that again.
I don't ever want to do that again unless I'm getting paid to be a professional full-time podcaster.
Understandable.
Working a full-time job and then doing 3 podcasts in a week was not fun. Did you think of?
I did. This seems like the perfect time to drop it in. It was something that didn't really have a part anywhere else, and I thought of it as like, it's interesting also in the movie, Robocop does not get a heroic entrance or introduction. You first see him behind that kind of glass that obscures things, and you see him approach, and then the first thing you see is like the police officers who scramble to get a look. You just see a shot of his back. He's like you really only see a full body look at him when he's finally exiting to get in his car. Because they also see him at the shooting range, but again, it's like you don't see him full on until he's leaving the station.
Yeah, and even then, I want to say, you'd think I'd remember this given how many times I've seen the movie. I want to say you don't get a full body shot of him in all his glory until he busts up that gas station robbery.
Yeah, maybe.
Well, no, I mean, the guy whose gun, he bends the barrel.
Oh, right, the convenience store. Yeah, that's true. Yeah, because he just walks straight through the door. And I think I don't know, that feels like a conscious choice. Again, I feel like an American director at the time wouldn't have made that choice.
Right.
It feels like something very much a subdued idea that it also plays back into the idea that he's constantly referred to as product. He's not meant to be thought of as this great person.
Right.
He's just a product that they've made to contain an issue.
Yeah. Oh, man. I fucking love this movie.
It is pretty good.
Next month, like I said, we got Ghostbusters to look forward to. We've got a few more weeks before we do any more wrestling coverage. 'Cause the next WWE pay-per-view is
Survivor Series.
This month or next month?
It's this month.
Okay, so in the next week or two, we've got Survivor Series.
It's toward the end of the month. I can't remember what day.
And I know I keep threatening this, but at some point, Katie and I are going to sit down and do another Long Walk Teeny Talks. I'm also going to redo our branding at some point to reflect that there is now a 5th podcast on this network. This is a rewind with David Two Dogs Hayes and Shelby Death Ray Patterson talking about the history of WWE and wrestling in general. Mm-hmm. Stan, if people want to reach out to you online and
Twitter.
give you suggestions for robotic replacements, where can they do that?
You don't need robotics.
Facebook and Twitter. Of course.
And what is your Twitter handle, Stan?
George at 52.
What is that even?
It's a lie, Dave.
Stan or Chris?
I don't have any social contacts, that's for sure.
Chris, if people want to reach out to you online, the CM Punk thing has died down. I can't make jokes about it anymore. I'm sad. If people want to argue with you online, where can they do that at?
I mean, you don't want to joke about that
you
anyway.
You can argue about CM Punk?
No, you don't want to joke about it anyway. There's a chance you might hear it and get really mad for months about it.
I fucking defy him, too. There's no such thing as bad publicity.
CM Punk.
You whiny little bitch.
I'm at ChrisTheOK on Twitter.com.
Punk.
I'll be there to relay any messages for Dave that might be needed.
Please do, because if you want to reach out to me, I'm on Instagram at DBHensley. If you want to keep up with the other podcasts on Instagram, you can follow at Long Walk Podcast or at This Is a Takeover, and also on Twitter at Long Walk Podcast or this_pod. If you want to keep up with the Long Walk Productions, you can visit us online at longwalk.us, or you can search for Long Walk Productions and Long Walk Podcasts on Facebook. To see more of our original work or hear past episodes that are no longer streaming, you can follow the YouTube links in the show notes. Thank you very much for listening, and if you enjoy this show or any of the shows on the Long Walk Podcast Network, please make sure to leave us a rating and a review on whatever platform you are listening on.
Peace out.
You can keep the gum.